Welcome back in, y'all. We are Black Girls Talking TV, where we bring the group chat to life and discuss all your favorite TV shows. Today, we will be recapping season 1 and 2 of Ginny and Georgia, just so we can get prepared for season 3. So, if you haven't watched those, save this video, come back in when you have. We're going to be talking about family, identity, trauma, and more. I am Victoria. I am a psychologist.
And I'm Kamaria. I am an attorney and a pop culture writer.
I'm Chi Chi, and I'm a marriage and family therapist and relationship coach. So let's go ahead and jump right into season 1 breakdown, right? So, what are some of the main points that you all remember happening in season 1? I think one of the first ones that I remember, which happened like in the first episode, is Ginny's stepfather dies.
Yeah. What did you guys think about the way Georgia decided to take him on out?
I mean, I thought it was, what is the word? It was sneaky. Like, apparently she's got away with it, like I guess I understand why she was upset with him. I don't think you have to go as far as to be killing people, but when we look at Georgia's history, she is in like fight or flight mode. Like someone is harming someone and she's jumping right in to save. So to her, it's not just, oh, this is a potential for my daughter to be assaulted. I need to leave this man or divorce this man. This is, oh my gosh, my daughter's life is at risk. My life was at risk and someone got to die.
Yeah. It's like Joe on You. Like, you don't know whether to like root for her or to say, girl, what is you doing? Because when you think about how many mothers, would see something like that or hear about that and they don't respond in the way that their child would want them to, right? Like, would those little girls wish that they did, their mothers did what Georgia did? I don't know. But yeah, it was definitely it was a bit much, I think, for what was happening. You could have easily packed up the house and moved on, but like you said, Chi-Chi, she's always in fight or flight. So to her, survival is whatever is the most extreme way to get out of this situation.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Like, I feel like it was like after him kind of touching on the backside of Jenny's leg that she decided to kill him, I guess. Before that, she was just kind of like, he's your stepdad, and da 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 da. So I'm like, I wonder whether there was more, and she was just trying to keep a brave face with Jenny. You know what I mean? Like, if there was like, if he really was just like an abusive guy, period, and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back for her. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the You reference because I was like, I was kind of rooting for her, and then it was like, I don't know, but she got a couple bodies, she ain't, she's like a serial killer, she's kind of, she has some bodies.
Yeah, she does. She does. I'm still.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference here is that I'm with you though, Chi-Chi. I'm rooting for her as well. At least I just want her to just like get it together and stop thinking she has to do all these things and like fight or flight. I think the difference here is she's doing it out of this means of how to protect her children. And so it's really hard, you know what I'm saying, when you enter that realm. Because it's not like she's not present. It's not like you know what I'm saying? Like she's still doing a lot for her children and trying to be an upstanding mother to the best of her ability based on what she's been exposed to. I think another thing here is she's this petite white blonde woman, and so it's packaged differently when you see these types of behaviors happening in terms of like how they're viewed and perceived by others, for sure.
Right, like this is a trauma response, not a dangerous person.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So the next big thing that happens in season 1 is Jenny's sexual development and this growing independence that she's having. We see the first time she has sex is when Marcus sneaks in through the window. He's not aware that she's a virgin. But yeah, they have sex for the first time. And this, I feel like, completely starts to uncover this almost little dark side that Ginny had, because she was ready to get revenge for a little bit there in the beginning, because she didn't get the response that she wanted from Marcus. What did you guys think about that?
It's like that's that Georgia coming out in her. Like for real. Like it's like she's her mother's daughter. There are going to be things that she picks up on, even though she's not exactly Georgia. But like that's what I felt. I was like, yeah, this is that Georgia in her coming out.
I mean, I was kind of taken aback because I was like, "Oh, Jenny, we just met him. Like, what's happening?" It was like boom, bam, bam. I was like, "Oh, okay." And they were both versions. I think they disclosed it maybe a little bit later on in
Hold up,
the
Marcus is a
show.
virgin?
Yeah, he was a version too.
Yeah, it came out in season 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I forgot,
So
I
him
forgot.
and like
Yeah.
Padma had been like hooking up, but apparently that means like making out and maybe like some other sexual stuff, but not like penetrative sex.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was surprised, at so this show when I watched it, because this has been 2 years now. Netflix
Right.
had us waiting for this forever. But when I first watched it, it was one of the first teen shows. Like it's like teen and adult mixed up in there. Um, but I was surprised at the sex. I was like, what? I mean, not like surprised in the sense of like it was too graphic or anything like that. It wasn't. But it was just I was surprised that all these teens were having so much sex, just like easy, drop of the hat. Like it was like she, like you said, she just met him, and it was like, wow. And first time coming through the window, it's happening. So I was like, this is interesting. Um, an interesting look into like what these teens be doing, because like I
But
know.
but this isn't new because remember, like Gossip Girl and what Vampire Diaries, like all those shows, all those teenagers was
Mm,
living like having sex, doing all types of stuff.
were
Like,
they?
yeah, yeah, they were like, and this was
I never
years ago.
watched them.
Okay, yeah, all this was out when we were like in high school. All those shows, all the teens having sex. Matter of fact, I think Gossip Girl may have been slightly more graphic.
Too
Wow.
much. I did start trying to watch it
Wow.
as an adult. And side note, why Joe from You is a main
I
character on
know,
that.
Dan. I know. I love Gossip Girl. I watch it once a year.
So yeah. Oh my. Oh
It's
I'm
my.
gonna
Well,
have
let
to
me
get
try.
into it and see what it's
I know,
about.
right?
I
Do a
don't
little
think it's
Yeah.
not
recap,
that
but
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that good.
Oh, it's not? Okay, okay.
No.
But yeah, the sex stuff was a lot for me, like in terms of
Hmm.
like shock it was shocking that they did it,
Yeah.
so quickly. That was all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think too, just like within her friend group, right? Like sex was seen as this thing that you do when
Mhm.
you're dating somebody
Yeah.
because I think it was like by date 2, Jenny was like when it came to Austin, Austin hasn't even kissed me yet.
Hunter? Hunter, because
Hunter,
Austin's the
sorry, not
brother.
us. Yes, not
Oh yeah.
Austin. Ooh,
Hunter.
we're
Yeah.
Hunter.
not talking about incest. Yes,
Yeah.
Hunter. She was like, Hunter hasn't even kissed me yet. All we do is hold hands or whatever.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's very much so encouraged within their friend group that you have sex,
Mhm.
and that's a show of,
Mhm.
that you guys like each other, kind of similar to what we were talking about in Forever. Like
Hmm.
Mhm.
this must mean that you guys are into each other if you guys are having
Mhm.
sex.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Because for
yeah.
a while, Jenny thought that Hunter wasn't attracted to her because of
Yeah,
this.
because
Mm.
he wasn't showing any signs of yeah, mhm, mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. And
But she
that's where
won't
she
into him
got
either.
what?
That's what she won't into him.
Oh
So,
no. 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 Poor
Yeah,
yeah.
Hunter.
yeah,
She was just with him
yeah.
to
I
like
think that
connect with the friend group, I felt like. And he was nice to her. Like he did some really like, beautiful gestures and things like that.
I think it was that and a little bit of like, okay, well, he's really smart. He's in AP classes. This is what the perfect guy is supposed to look like. He's really nice. He doesn't, push me to do things that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it was a little bit of that too. Like this is like the perfect image of what a good guy is and who I should date. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 The next thing in Jenny's character development is we see that she is self harming.
Yeah.
And she does what a lot of individuals do who self harm, which is they see harming themselves not only as a punishment for something that they did, but also as a release for a lot of negative emotions that they don't know how to express. Um, what did you guys think about that?
I don't know what I thought about it. Like I was glad that they kind of included that in the series, right? Because I know a lot of people, but especially a lot of teens, experience, self-harm and things like that. So it was nice to see that they were including kind of serious topics in the series. I I guess the only thing they didn't really give a lot of backstory to kind of the origin of like, why that started. If she even, or maybe they did. Actually, they may have talked about like what was the first time, what was the thing that kind of caused it. Um, but yeah, no, I like that they brought that up, but I will say it was kind of heavy to watch. Kind of
Mhm.
like particular scenes where she was self-harming. That was difficult to watch.
Yeah, it was. I was like, damn, they need a warning every episode because of this.
I think
For
they did put some
real.
warnings at the beginning of episodes, I believe. Yeah, because it was a little,
Yeah, they
yeah,
Yeah, that was a lot. One of the things that I think was an interesting, like, sort of stabilizing force that we're introduced to in season one, and I'm not sure if it's stabilizing or what, but her relationship with Paul. Georgia meets Paul, and he's trying to be this like stabilizing force in the family. What did you guys think about Paul? I kind of was like, I like him, but then I was like, I don't know, I don't know. Where were you guys with this whole relationship and thoughts on it? Especially since the kids used to be like, oh, mom is always, she said it was going to be just us and she's always finding a man. And it's like, here she is again. I don't know if it was
hmm,
episode 1 or episode 2 where she was having lunch with the mayor and Jenny caught her.
right.
So what y'all think about him?
I like Paul, right? I like her relationship with Paul. I do wish they would like bring forward more of this part of, because right now they try to like, paint Paul as like this goody two shoes. And actually I think Paul really sees Georgia for who she is. And that, that part of her that he's also attracted to, I think a little bit of that exists within him. He is a politician, right? And they want to win. They want power, right? Like there are just certain things that come along with that. And I wish they would let that bit of his character come forward a bit because it's kind of like no
Mhm.
guns, no this, Georgia, that, da, da, da. I'm like, Paul, you know who Georgia is, right? Because I think he realized how she kind of blackmailed the owner of the diner to like give the healthier meals to the students, right? Like he caught on to that. So, and also just where there's smoke, there's fire. The whole thing around, oh, she's taking money or their money was put back and all this stuff. I'm like, come on, Paul. You know who Georgia is.
But
Oh no,
in
go
some
ahead.
ways, I wonder though if he doesn't want to see it though. He like she's cute and da 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 da, and this she's making a lot of things happen. So it's like all's
How
well
did
that ends well. I feel like that's sort of where they're trying to have his character be in that like lane of like he does sense something, but also
mm.
doesn't want to see it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want to see it because he doesn't want to see it inside of himself, right? Like there is a bit of that
Mm.
in him. And I think he tries to act like he's this kind of upstanding person, but you know who Georgia is, and you know that she's been doing some illegal stuff. And yet you're still like getting with her and a politician getting with her. I mean, I like the paradox of that, of him being a politician, being against certain things, being a goody two shoes, and then is in love with this person that has had it pretty rough, is not a goody two shoes, and actually doesn't mind like breaking the law if that means she's protecting herself or her family.
Yeah, I agree. And he sees her kind of come up with these solutions really quick, and gather support behind them very quickly as well. So he sees that she's persuasive. He sees that she can garner power. And so I think he sees it as also as a tool to continue his career and
For
get him
sure.
further where he wants to go. So I definitely see where and I feel like in season 3, and we're going to talk about it later, but like everything by that point is out in the open. He knows everything, right?
You
Besides the
talking about
fact
the
that,
upcoming season?
yeah, he
Yeah.
knows everything at this point, but except for the fact that he killed, or does she know that he killed the ex?
No, she didn't
I
tell him
mean,
about the
Oh,
that's what she gets
murders.
arrested for.
no, I'm
Oh,
talking
you're
about the ex husband. Yeah, yeah. And I don't see him being like, oh, I'm not going to protect her. So, yeah, it's something that's tickling for him, honey. So, we'll see. We'll see. But in terms of Georgia liking Paul, I think she sees Paul as this way of getting to this life that she's always
Hmm.
wanted, that she feels like her hard work deserves. And so she's going to do anything to keep that, you know? Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It will be interesting to see how their relationship develops after This little lockdown she about to have.
Yeah, do you think he's gonna, not to jump into season 3, but like, do you think he's gonna stay? Like, what y'all thinking? Because I'm like, you think he gonna stay? I'm interested.
I don't see Paul
Because
going
I'm
nowhere.
wondering if they're gonna have a setup for Zion, but I don't
To
know,
swoop
or
in.
dangle that,
Yeah.
carrot in front of us a little bit, but I don't know.
That fine man.
I think
I
Paul is going to want to
know,
save
right?
face, right? I think he's going to want to save face. And so I think that he is going to stay with her. Maybe she'll reveal that she's murdered 3 people. Maybe not. I don't know. Like, but I think he has an inkling that she's probably done a little bit more than what she said. Um, so I think they're
Mhm.
going to stay together.
Mhm,
I'm interested to see how it's going to play out.
mhm,
Yeah. All righty. Let's get into a little bit of this racial identity conflict that we kind of see happening through season 1 and even season 2 with Ginny.
mhm,
Not feeling black enough, not feeling white enough. The microaggressions with the teacher. What are our thoughts on that?
I think it's somewhat like Ginny is not, she's interesting because she is not like someone who is mixed, who's been raised around black people, you know what I mean? She's got a white mom, she's in white schools or white surroundings, and so I think that conflict can rise up a little bit more for somebody like that, because like you stand out a lot, you know what I mean? Like a mixed girl in an all black school in some way doesn't stand out as much because she's like light skinned or whatever, but she might get like more so teased for like, hair, or you think you're cute or whatever. That's a line I think that she would have experienced in an all black environment. But I think this stands out for her more because she's in a all white environment and she's used to being around white people. And so I think that conflict is activated in her a little bit more than if it were in the opposite. And so it's a unique perspective from that vantage point that they presented, with her. So,
Yeah. It seems like you said, she grew up more in white spaces. I think the scene that really pops out to me is when they went to the, what was that? The little carnival
party,
at the
the
high
Britney Spears.
school.
Oh,
Right. No, not the Britney Spears. The when they went to
okay.
like the little sleepover at the high school and they were like, let's all do our hair in ponytails. And then like Jenny sat down, the lady like brushes out her curls. And then, her friends were like, oh my God, your hair. And I thought, okay, this is an interesting scene to take place in 2020, whenever that took place. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think that was a moment where it was just like, oh, okay, I am half black, right? My hair is different. If
Mhm.
you brush out my curls, it's going to puff
Mhm.
up, it's going to frizz up. Um,
Mhm.
but then, interesting enough, right? She goes to the bathroom and then she applies water and then it like refixes itself, which is not an experience a black girl
Mhm.
could have because if your hair got messed up, there, unless you got your products at the sleepover or someone there can redo it, there's no going to the bathroom to apply water to fix. And so you can see how she,
Absolutely.
right, like in one moment it's like, oh my God, I'm black. But in the other moment it's like, I'm also half white, right? And water can fix things. Yeah.
I shouldn't be
Right.
laughing as hard at that, but that is so real.
I literally was thinking the exact same thing. Like I was like, okay, okay. Because the girl,
Easy fix, baby girl. Easy fix.
like, yeah.
Yeah, but they tried to pull it back in when Georgia came into the bathroom and she was like, "What did I tell you about letting people touch your hair?"
Hmm.
So
Hmm. And I mean,
Yeah,
I
they tried
get
yeah.
to pull
it.
us back, but baby,
Right. I get how it can still be like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But you're right. In my mind, right, as a black girl, I'm like, girl, that's an easy fix. Go in there and put some water on your hair, do a little puff, and call it a day. Like, yeah. I remember as a little
Mhm.
girl,
yeah.
like my braids would come down at school and I would be so like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And there was this one girl at the elementary school, Shatia, and she actually could braid on the head at the time. I couldn't. And she would like re-braid my braids back down. And like I would just be mortified of these braids coming down like my life was about to end. And so when that happened to her, I was like, oh, yeah, I see. But then I was like, there's no going in the bathroom to put water in my hair. If Shatia couldn't braid my hair back down,
Yeah.
it was just going to be out until I got home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out
No.
to Shatia.
Right.
Yeah, like I used to my hair was natural in high school and I used to like straighten it with like flat irons and stuff like that. And so when if you'd have a moment where it's like humidity and it gets up, it's like, oh my God, the way I fixed it was a ponytail. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, can I brush it into a ponytail? Can I clip down? And so it's like she is living in like two different worlds, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Not even in one world because like not even in the black world basically, which is her dilemma, because it's like, water sometimes can be the enemy because it's like,
Yeah.
girl, you trying to send me in an opposite direction of the style I was even trying to go, don't touch no
Mhm.
water. I remember one of my friends talking about at a massage place one time, he put the towel on her forehead and she was like, my edges, stop. So it's like
That's real.
it's a totally different experience on this side of it. So, it's nice that they brought that different element in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when with the Asian, I don't know if we have that in here as something to talk about separately, but the Asian boyfriend, his experience, even like talking about like his experience with the teacher and versus her experience with the teacher, and her bringing up like, you're stereotypically seen as
Right.
smarter, and like that's it's to your stereotypes are sort of in your favor, to your benefit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
mine or not, and he interacts with me in that way, and it doesn't mean that he's not racist because he is kind to you and treats you in a certain way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a lot of themes with that though. In there. And I wish that they had more conversations, or at least tried to have conversations where Georgia was aware of the things that were going on with her in terms of
Mm-hmm.
microaggressions at school, because it happened early on, like even with the makeup with the friends, they were like, oh shoot,
Mm-hmm.
like we don't have your shade.
hmm
um or the teacher in the beginning, like the first, or what was it, the
right.
first episode, he was like, oh, let's see if you can keep up, pretty much trying to,
Right.
imply that she would be behind the curve
Mm-hmm.
to be in
hmm
AP English. And it
hmm
wasn't until Zion and Zion's family came in where there were like these, larger conversations around her cultural identity and needing to develop in certain ways because of that. So yeah,
hmm
it
Mm-hmm.
would have been nice for I guess to show that there are like biracial kids out there with white mothers who
hmm
are very aware and keen of these types of things and the maltreatment that might happen to their children. But I guess it kind of took on the play that we also see, right? Like where white moms may not be able to relate to their biracial children in these types of experiences and what
Yeah.
that looks like. So,
I
and
mean,
the importance of the presence of the black parent in the
yeah,
child's
yeah.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that there is a element like that, Zion's family had to like bring into that
Yeah.
equation. Another thing though, like to your point, like Georgia did when she was caught shoplifting. I remember that.
Yeah.
But Georgia she went kind of off, but it was a valid point, but she kind of was like, is it because she's black? Like you know what I mean? But it was a valid point in the sense of like they all in there doing whatever they're doing, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't caught the black one. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then like that's
Yeah.
when we see Abby as like being shady, like, oh, we didn't know she
Mm-hmm.
was stealing. It's like,
Okay,
bitch, like,
Abby.
girl,
Right, right,
English.
right.
But yeah, so there was that element. I do remember her talking about that and just being like, these girls, they are not your friends. Just understanding that there is a different, people are going to look at you a little differently sometimes. So there was an element of that in there, but I definitely think like there's always going to be never like the 100% understanding, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not your lived experience. So that black parent, that black family is definitely important.
Mm-hmm.
Their perspectives are definitely
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Another major moment that happened in season one is when Georgia called the cops on Ginny, right? So Georgia had planned this whole like birthday get together for Ginny and her friends. And then they end up like sneaking out. Georgia caught them, called the cops, and then let the cops take her downtown, really against Paul's like wishes. What are you all's thoughts on that whole moment happening in the relationship?
I felt like it was a representation of the shift that was happening between Ginny and Georgia and having this power struggle that they continue to have well into season 2. And it was almost representative of the rebellion that kind of happens for teenagers, especially teenage girls and their mother, when they are trying to find their own way, do things the way they want to do, explore on their own. And a mother like Georgia who just keeps intervening. I think one way they described Georgia was like a force. Everything has to happen the way Georgia wants it to happen. Mm-hmm. And Ginny at this point is like, she's had enough. And so you see her in this way, like trying to separate a little bit from her mother and create her own identity and individualize herself a little bit. And Georgia is like, nope. She want to go and be her own person. She want to be an adult, want to do adult things. Take her ass down to the jail and let her sit there and think about her actions.
Right.
Yeah, it was a pivotal moment, I think, in their relationship.
I also think it brings up that Georgia was a little jealous, right? And I think Ginny had called her out on that maybe a couple of episodes earlier around like, you're just used to me and you like making fun of people together, not me actually making friends, and you're kind of on the outside. And so I think Georgia was getting slightly jealous, like you said, Victoria, because Ginny is now making friends and coming into her own and having her own identity and stepping away a bit from her mom. And I also think Georgia was mad. If I'm not mistaken, she was really angry during this time frame because she just felt like her mom is constantly lying and all of that was going on.
Ginny.
Yeah.
I think what is interesting to me about two things. One, these kids be partying, like they be partying, like just the alcohol raid at the slumber party, and then going over to the extra party to have like big fun, But I think also during this time period, because like Paul was the one who came and helped her, Ginny, I think it was really like the start of her being like, okay, he's kind of all right, like for my mom, and like her giving sort of her stamp of approval for him in a way, that I think that started and opened the door for that. So,
yeah. He validated her in that moment, though. Was like, I see that you're a really good sister to your brother and that you worked really hard to keep him safe and protected. And I think that was a moment of acknowledgement that she needed. And that kind of was like, hi, like you said, Kamaria, you are right in my book. The reason why, Chi-Chi, back to what you said, that she was mad, though, is because the PI by this point shows up and has that conversation with Ginny and pretty much says, I think your mother is dangerous. Like, I'm pretty sure she is responsible for the death of your stepfather. And are you familiar with this plan?
Yeah.
And then also the cousins, the aunt and their cousin, her son, showing up, and Ginny finding out that it was his family and her grandparents did not die, and they still were, or were they dead at this point? I don't even remember. But like that she had family, and that her mom had lied to her about that. So that was also like, driving that wedge between them a little bit too, of distrust.
And her finding out that her name is Mary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you guys think about when the PI did have that conversation with her and she kind of instantly got into this whole like, I don't know what what you're talking about. Like, my mom is not capable of these things.
And that's the Georgia popping out. She knows it's time to put on the show.
Yeah. I also kind of felt bad for her in that moment because I'm like, oh my God, imagine someone revealing to you that like your parent is a murderer. And you're just like, well, I'm old enough to know that I can't be like, I think you're right, because they're going to go to jail, right? But at the same time, you're like, who is this person, that I've been living with? So I also thought the PI, like, I get that you're like a private investigator, but you dip into new lows. Like, leave the kids alone.
He will be on their righteous horse, like I promise you,
Absolutely.
Literally. I remember one time in court, representing somebody on a credit card debt, like that the other company didn't owe, and I mean that the company they couldn't prove that they owned it, and that person gonna come to me and say, this is like stealing. The person that you represent is like stealing. It's like, bitch, you don't even know. You can't even prove that you own this debt. Get out of my face. Like, but they try to guilt trip you. Like people be riding their little white horse down the road and they think they're going somewhere, and it's just like, I think that's a little bit of it. People get self-righteous,
You definitely had a lot of
Really.
that. So, also a part of that whole situation with Ginny being upset and all of that, and because she talked to the PI, is also because Austin found out that Georgia hadn't been mailing his letters to his father, who is in prison. As well as he found a gun, right? So, like, two big things happened in one. Like, oh, you're not sending my letters to my father. Plus, like, and she's been writing fake ones back to him. Plus, right, if there's a gun in the house. Like, what are you all's thoughts on, like, Georgia doing that, I imagine, to protect Austin?
Yeah, it was really sad to see because Austin had this magical idea of his dad that he was, I think, like he knew that he was a magician,
Yeah.
right? But he was like, my dad is a magician, and like these are the things he does, and he's super cool, and these are the letters that I get based on who he is. And I don't think he was aware that he was in prison.
Well, I think he was, but it was like a magic prison or something like that because he's a super.
He's a
Wasn't it like he was like a
wizard.
superhero or wizard? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
super.
they're like,
Yeah, yeah,
but they
yeah,
got him in like because he's so powerful and magical, and that's where that kid who got his nose punched
yeah,
um was like,
yeah. I felt so bad.
no.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that was another thing Georgia did when she like snagged his nose after the nosebleed. It was
Right.
like, we're just gonna
Shit,
tell your
kids
mother you
can
had a
get it.
nosebleed, but what you're not gonna do is hit my son or mess with him again, okay?
Kids can get
So
it
yeah,
too. She said,
yes,
like,
kids could get it too. Um, but what was really sad with this was he was ditching school, and then he also like you saw him ditching school and then also having like this make believe life that he was having when he was ditching school. Like he would kind of go off and have like this fantasy play, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that you see with kids who have been traumatized. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the symptoms that you see because it's like you're trying to avoid the things that trigger you
Mm-hmm.
based on this traumatic event, and so you kind of go off and you fantasize and have this fantasy world that you are living in, which is similar to what we see in like teens and adults, which is dissociating. Um, and he's also not talking to his mom, so his mom doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know, for a good little bit why he's upset.
Right. Yeah. Poor
Yeah,
Austin.
yeah,
He's
that was
young to find out
sad.
the lies. Yeah.
Yeah, very young, very young. And Georgia got them credit cards in his name. Jenny found
nah.
out about that. Jenny was like, I'm fed up with this bitch. Like, she's doing way too much.
Exactly.
She's
Yeah.
doing way too much. I did think it was funny though when she went and got the Game Boy on the card, and she was like, "I figured he'd get something out of it, so I went ahead and got him a Game
Hmm.
Boy."
Mhm.
Um,
Also,
yeah,
she mailed the letters, right? Like, she's the reason that Gil
yeah,
found them.
yeah. And I mean, when she mailed them, she was unaware why
Why?
Georgia was trying to keep him away from them. So
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot going on with the dynamic and then the power struggle because that was also representative of the power struggle. It was like
Mhm.
Jenny trying to step up and take control of some of these situations that she felt were very unfair based on her mother's lies, not
Hmm.
knowing what her mom's lies were rooted in. But again,
Yeah.
it's like that at some point because of all of these events, Georgia had to like tell her the truth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like when somebody gets old enough to start doing things on their own and they're unaware of certain things, but they finding out the first thing they finding out is that you a murderer, and then you got a whole family that's alive. Now you ain't sending these letters from my little brother, and you getting
Mhm.
credit cards. It's just yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot for a teen to have to find out and then figure out how to manage her own emotions through all of that. So
Yeah, I kept having to remind myself like Jenny is a teen because I was like, girl, this we don't do this. You know what I mean? Like we don't snitch on the family, okay? Like what are
Hmm.
we doing? We don't have go outside of what it is that is the not trying to say like what's the family story, like some people do need to go outside of this,
Hmm.
what the norm is, but I don't know. I felt like I was a little annoyed at Ginny, at different times, and I had to keep telling
Yeah.
myself, "She's a teen, she's going through trauma, and Georgia is putting them in some shit," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But that's also a cultural difference too, because you probably
mhm.
like, as a black family, we don't go and spread our business and tell everything and start doing all of
Mhm.
this. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
keep it cute.
Right.
You keep it in the
Yeah,
house.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because she sure enough told her boyfriend, Marcus, at that point, wait, are
And
they
the
dating?
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
they're
told the
Yes.
friends,
friends.
like, that the guns was in the house, and then that's when
Yeah.
the girl's mama went on the TV, like,
Yes.
No, she was doing a lot.
Yeah. Jenny was definitely doing a lot. Like,
Yeah.
girl, keep it cute, girl. Keep it cute.
We forgot to talk about when her dad arrived, Zion. I just want to say
mm,
that
Yes.
Zion is nice eye candy.
Yes,
he
he
is,
is.
he is.
That is a good looking man.
I
Hmm.
know, yeah.
I liked the tension between
Yeah.
him and Georgia, right? I know like they're over, she's with Paul, all the stuff, but I liked their relationship. And also because they have a lot of history together and he knows her, right? Like he
Mhm,
knows the things or most of the things about her.
mhm.
And then they have their little rendezvous, which apparently is typical, according to Ginny, that they have this little rendezvous, things are great, and then he dips and he leaves. But this time, he is like, I want to stay, right? That whole poem that he did for Ginny, that was really beautiful, right? I can't even
It
remember how it went,
was.
but it was heartwarming.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
"Daddy," she says, "More, daddy, up," or whatever, and then so I give more,
Yeah.
or like, it was
Right.
cute.
It was nice.
Yeah, he's nice. He's nice. And it's interesting this story this show has so many possible viable love options for Georgia. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
any of these paths could be like Joe, and we I guess we can transition into talking about Joe a little bit too, but like any of these paths, Joe, Zion, Paul, you know what I'm saying? They're
Mm-hmm.
all viable options, and we're all kind of like, I can see that, I can see that, and I can see that. And so it's I think it makes it even more, interesting because it's like it's
Yeah.
not just the typical love story where it's like who is her meant to be person. It's like this kind of could be any of
Mm-hmm.
them, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the Joe of it all. We haven't talked much about him, but he's like the whole reason they're here. You know what I mean? They've come here. They have this little childhood moment where he gives her the Ray Bans or whatever, and she ends up keeping them. She tells him about the horse and everything, and or the name of the horse. What was it? What was
Milkshake.
his
Milkshake.
Mm-hmm.
milkshake? Yeah. And so it's just like he's a nice guy. He's like somebody that she knows is a safe. I don't want to diminish him by calling him safe, but there is safety within like his space and his sphere. Like he's not um like some of the men in her past who have been very
Mm-hmm.
harmful and very, just not good folks. He's a good guy, and that's important. But what do y'all think about Joe and his role in the story?
I like Joe. We probably won't bring it back up because it's not like as significant, but I think like in season 2, there was a moment where when Gil comes back into town and he's talking to Cynthia at the bar and he overhears that Gil is trying to talk bad about Ginny, and so he cuts the conversation off by giving him the order. And then there's also a flashback where we see that when he was younger and getting bullied, he framed the bully with the answer sheets that he stole
Mm-hmm.
to get him in trouble for hitting him. And so I think there was this side of him also, just like Paul, that understood who Georgia was, and he was
Mm-hmm.
okay with it. I think he identified with it a little bit, with this idea of having to survive through a struggle. And so
Mhm.
just like you said, Kamara, like with all these viable options, it's like with all of these people who like see George's dark side, understand it a little bit, right? Maybe not in its complete totality, but like they're drawn to it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I like Joe. I like
Mhm.
him.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting on Joe's. Like that's a good point. Like I think Joe, he sees the struggle that he's experienced, and he sees like Georgia has she has a response to this that is effective for her, and I think that's the excitement for him, or the reason why he um sees it as a plus because it's like, I know the pain of like the struggle of like other people doing you dirty, whatever, but she handles her business. And I think it's admirable in his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think she told Joe the thing that she likes about him is that she feels like he's never judging her, right? He has this way of relating to people that doesn't feel judgmental. Um, and
Mhm.
I really like the point you brought up, Kamaria, around like she has all these viable kind of love options. And I think it's actually quite reflective of like our lives in general. We always think about like, who's the one? Am I making the right decision? But actually, I think Georgia could actually fare quite well with any of them, with Joe, with Zion, with Paul, right? Like these are all three really good men who, in some ways, know her, even if they don't know all the details about it. And they love her, even with knowing her in that way. And I think actually all of these would be good options for her and her kids. And it's really about who does she want? Who does she want to be, right? Who do you want to be and who do you feel is going to complement that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, good point.
Who do you guys think would be a best fit for her?
I think Georgia
Mm.
wants power. And I think that's exactly why she is with Paul,
Mm.
right? And in that sense, right, like Paul compliments her. Zion wouldn't compliment her in that way. He's not concerned about power. Joe is afraid of power, right? Like I feel like these are people that they
But she's
wouldn't
the power in the relationship.
right, she's the power,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's why she's with Paul. I think Paul actually named that, right? Is that we are both go-getters. We both go for what we want, right? And that thing
Mhm.
they want is power.
Yeah.
But there is
Yeah.
something interesting about like that version of Georgia. You know what I mean? Like there could be, I think that version of Georgia is somewhat of a trauma response, Like she wants power because she's been powerless and she knows the struggles of being powerless, right? And
Hmm.
so it's like, would a is the healed version of Georgia picking Paul? I wonder. The now version of her, I think that's who she's most compatible maybe with, like, but I wonder if a healed version would pick a Joe or would a healed version pick a Zion. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I think a healed version would pick a Joe. I feel
Yeah,
like
Mm,
Joe would bring
too.
like a calm sense of stability, right? Like with
mhm,
Paul, she has to continue in these behaviors,
mhm,
whether she wants to or
mhm,
not. She can't necessarily be like a soft butterfly with Paul.
mhm,
She has to be on. She always has to put on a mask, right? Like
mhm,
she's very public facing.
Hmm.
mhm,
And I think with Zion, the trouble there is the fact that they have such a troubled past, and he wasn't always, around and there. And he got to be the one to go live his life and fulfill his dreams while she was the one who had to raise these kids. So I feel like there might always be like some contention with them because of that. But I feel like Zion knows her best. Like when they're together, you could just see like it's instant chemistry. Even when when she's calling him up, when she's doing the wedding planning in season 2 and all that stuff, like you could just tell like there will always be some type of draw that they have to one another. But for sure, I think Joe is like the safest and the healthiest route. It's like a true fresh restart with just like a little bit of like, I know what you about, but we're not
Hmm.
going to have that over here because I'm not going to put you in a position to have to do anything like that.
Hmm.
mhm,
Something that's happening with this dynamic in season 1, though, is because Zion shows up and they have this moment, right? He sees the future and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get a spot. I'm gonna stay. Here's a new address in Boston. If you want to come with me, you're more than welcome. Ginny is super excited about this, by the way. And it seems like Georgia's like, hell yeah, like she was leaning into it. And it was not until they had the rally for Paul's election where Zion was taking photographs and he saw the chemistry between um Georgia and Paul, and he's like, you know what, like she really wants this, like this is what she's all about. She's all about this power. And then he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and leave and let y'all do what y'all do. And Paul also recognizes it's just like he said, Chi Chi, like you want this power.
Hmm.
You're a natural. It ends up proposing to Georgia, and now she is stuck with: do I go with my ex or do I go with this thing that is trying to give me this future?
Hmm.
And ultimately, because Zion leaves, she goes with Paul.
Yeah. I think it was when Zion went to some political event they were having, and he saw Georgia like in her element, and like the trauma response that you were talking about, Kamaria, right? Like she has been able to hone that, right? And actually, she's really great at what she does in Paul's office. And so I think Zion saw that and was like, let me bow out, right? Like I may have missed my moment here. I took too long to come in and like be this kind of stable force based on, how his career and stuff was growing. And so, yeah, I loved that Paul was like 10 toes down, like, listen, I know you slept with him. I'm not concerned about that. What are we doing moving forward? Because I brought this ring day one, right? And do you want it? Like he was just unfazed by all the noise that was going on around and really locked in to be like, I see myself with you. I want you. Let's clear the slate. From this moment forward, what are we going to be? Right. And I think she also was like, whoa, I've never had anyone kind of come to me with such clarity,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that got me. So I was like, I think around that time period, Paul is like going up in my book.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So another thing that happens in season 1 is Max finding out about Ginny and Marcus, who is Marcus's twin and Ginny's best friend. She's like, what the hell? Why didn't you tell me? And she blows things up after her first debut play. She tells Hunter that they hooked up while they were together. She tells Ginny, I knew about this and you didn't tell me. You're a terrible friend. What's the other girl? Nora. She ends up playing along. And then they also find out that Abby already knew about it. And they're like, both of y'all can kick rocks. And so Meg is blown up at this point. And there's a lot of things happening in Jenny's life where she needs support, like all of this stuff going on with her mom. Also, the microaggressions that continue to happen in English class where Ginny is asked to pick a black book and then also to lead a class discussion, and no one is backing her up in class because they're all pissed off. So it's just all like a very much so big cluster fuck of things happening to Jenny, and she does what her mom does. Like after all of this is happening and everything that she's mad at her mom about, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna run. She ends up stealing Marcus's bike and she heads to Boston to her dad's house, and that is how the season ends.
Yeah, so that does end us at season 1. We've got a lot more to talk about in season 2, so we're going to do part 2 of this, and so join us in that video, and we'll see you there.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye.